Hello everyone, today I'm at the U.S. Army Transportation Museum in Williamsburg, Virginia. This museum has a famous U.S. Army military railway, and this museum also has many other cool things. But if you want to see that, you can check out the link in the pinned comment below. In today's video, I will be showing you the rail yard and all the trains in it. Without further ado, let's visit the rail yard. Entering, you can see the many eye-catching locomotives from different eras. Originally, the yard was used for military-based purposes, but later it was converted into a museum. Over 100 years ago, the US Army had its own military corps, and still does today, but back then it was a lot larger, especially during the times when automobiles didn't yet exist. Over here, we have an MRS-1 diesel-electric locomotive. Ironically enough, this vehicle was procured by the lobbyists who actually tried to stop rail travel in the US, General Motors. Yep, that's right, the company that now makes your Cadillacs, Chevrolets, Opels, and Vauxhalls used to make locomotives. An incredible thing about this locomotive is its versatility, of course, because it needed to be Since this locomotive may be deployed anywhere in the world, it needed to be extremely versatile, and the engineers took this into account. Of course, it was made diesel-electric, which means that it can run on electrified lines and non-electrified lines. And despite being made in the 50s, it was multi-gauge. The bogie could change gauges from 1,435mm to 1,676mm, allowing it to be driven almost anywhere around the world. The wagon this display unit is hauling is the Berlin Duty Wagon, which is a very interesting piece. This wagon was used during the Cold War between 1945 and 1990. This wagon transported US Army officials through West and East Germany, and because of its classified manner, it had to have its windows closed and its curtains closed at all times, so the interior was only seen by the public when it was put on display in the museum. This wagon was in Germany, and then it was given as a gift to the museum from the German government in the 1990s. Even though it was in the 20th century, the train set still used a caboose for security reasons. Also, anyone besides military officials were not allowed inside the wagon, so for paper checks in East Germany, soldiers had to step out of the car and get their papers checked. This wagon was a transport sleeper car and has this very interesting entrance with a rather thin door. Over here is a guard car for the Berlin Duty train. It has a caboose which was used by guards to watch out for any dangerous things around the train. This car has a couple benches and not much else, but it probably has some kind of secret compartments that nobody knows about because it's a US Army object. This was also donated by the government in conjunction with the Berlin Duty car. Next up, we have this very unique wagon that was built at this fort, and it is a one-of-a-kind wagon. This is a wrecking locomotive wagon. This was built in 1952 and was used to lift derailed trains from tracks. Most people that visit the museum are quite impressed, and so am I. It's quite a unique showpiece and not something you see very often on a railway. This wagon also is in wheel sets of 3, instead of the typical railway wheel sets of 2. Now, conjoined to this wagon is another very unique wagon, which looks like nothing you've ever seen before. That is a snowplow car. It has a very interesting history, and if you want to read about it, you can pause here and read. It's more than a snowplow and extremely useful and versatile. This is like a Swiss Army knife but a train wagon. Over here is a different model US Army diesel-electric locomotive. It's pretty similar to the other one in appearance and statistics. If you know anything about this locomotive, please let me know in the comments below, because this place didn't have a ton of information about it. As you can see, a unique thing about this locomotive is its interior, as it's pretty much just empty on the inside. In similar fashion to the previous locomotive, it's named with a 3-letter abbreviation and a number at the end. Over here, we have a self-propelled railway maintenance car, which, you guessed it, it was used for railway maintenance. This particular car actually served this exact fort from the 1950s through to the 1960s. It works by propelling itself when you press the pump up and down. And speaking of small railroad vehicles, this next display is awesome. This is a really cool side tank switcher which has a 3-wheel set, which is pretty rare to see. It's just 1 wheel set of 3 on a really short wagon, and it looks like a steam locomotive as well. And despite being a steam locomotive, it was actually built in the 1940s, which makes this car even more unique. It also has this cute little size and feel to it, which kind of makes me think of Thomas the Tank Engine. And the steam locomotive fun does not end here either. This place has another steam locomotive. This steam locomotive is really old, as you can tell, because, well, it's a steam locomotive. Also because it existed back when railroads in the United States were actually relevant. It's so unique seeing these awesome locomotives with their non-standard size wheels and the immense engineering complexity put into these iron horses. With the vast amount of metal pokey things and steam, it was pretty hard to maintain.
Wise guy, huh?
And here you can see the immense amount of screws, bolts, pipes, and everything else. This is just such a complex machine. I could stand here for days and marvel at it. It's just so incredible. Someone had to write down an entire blueprint and build this thing. It's just mind-boggling. Over here we have a 40-ton railway flat car, which is meant to transport objects or vehicles. Over here is a railway training caboose for the Fort Eustis Military Railway, which was built in the 1950s and was used for training at Fort Eustis up until the 1970s. Here you can see the interior. It's pretty plain and empty, with some windows and a raised area for observation. There were, of course, many other little cool things, but they weren't big enough to make the cut, so here's just a compilation of some of the other cool things at the rail yard.
That's a big boy.